Hello, today we will be reviewing Killers of the Flower Moon. Okay, so first of all we have to talk about Leonardo's prosthetics, because they changed his face completely. I mean, I tried to go into the movie blind, so when I started watching the movie I wasn't even sure if those were prosthetics, but he looked completely different. He had different teeth and also he had like a permanent frown. He looked like this most of the time, and I actually like this because he reminded me a lot of Orson Welles, who also had like a kind of similar frown. But yeah, I'm sure that if you hear Leonardo DiCaprio, you're expecting great acting, and he did really great here too. He especially has one scene in which, spoilers, he discovers that his daughter has died and he has an emotional breakdown that is phenomenally acted. It seems very real and very sincere. But honestly, the best actress in the whole movie is Lily Gladstone, who, to be honest, I didn't know before, but I'm going to need to start following everything she does, because she's a great actress, and I think that her biggest asset are her eyes, because she has very expressive eyes, and I think that was the key of the movie, because throughout the film we are not sure if she knows what Robert De Niro and Leonardo DiCaprio are planning or not, because some scenes you think that she knows and other scenes you think that she doesn't. So yeah, she's a great actress with very expressive eyes. And also, like Leonardo, if I'm talking about Robert De Niro, I'm sure that you're expecting a certain amount of greatness, and yeah, I can confirm that he does great in this role too, and it's a role that is similar to other roles that he has done, but also different, because although he's a mafia boss, he also has a very different public image. So that's a different role for Robert De Niro, and he excels at both. But yeah, I think that the acting is one of the best parts of the movie, because we have great performances from all those three actors, and we also have great performances from other actors, like for example Jesse Plemons playing an FBI officer, or even Brendan Fraser, who portrays a lawyer and who steals the show in the scenes that he's on, because he has a lot of physicality, and I think that this movie really utilizes well his big presence to intimidate Leonardo DiCaprio's character. So yes, I think that the acting is one of the biggest positives of this film. If there's one thing that I love about the Scorsese, is that he nails the tone always, and also he has a very distinct directorial style. We can see a lot of his tricks, like for example using a lot of real photos and videographs to make it seem like a more lived-in place, or using rock music, or also really telling crime stories that involve religion in some way. His use of religion in this movie is very interesting, because we not only see the depiction of Catholicism, which is his religion, but we also learn about the religion of the Osage. So yeah, I found that really interesting, and I really like his small details, like for example starting with the photos which were in black and white and then transitioning that into Leonardo DiCaprio's face when he was in the train. So yeah, the tone and style of the movie is another positive. Oh, and I forgot to say it before, but that scene in which they discover the oil, and while that happens we can hear a mix of rock and the Native American music while they are dancing in slow motion. That scene is great, and that's one of my favorite parts of the movie. Another thing that I really enjoyed was how they used the setting. I mean, it was really clear that Scorsese was paying a lot of attention to the cars of the era, and it was also really fun to see the focus that the movie had on showing people taking pictures and also asking them for money. So really, those small details let you into the time of the era. But really, I think that the most important aspect of this historical time was the race tensions, because we are reminded that the Tulsa massacre didn't happen a lot of time ago, and we also witnessed the sort of beginnings of the KKK. So really, you can tell that there's a lot of tension between races, or maybe to be more fair, coming from the white man into the other people. So yeah, I found that really interesting, and I also found it really interesting how we saw the beginnings of the FBI. When Leonardo DiCaprio's character didn't know what the FBI was, it really put into perspective how long ago this was. So yes, the setting and of course the set design is also a very good part of the film. So even though this movie is 3 hours long and it has some negatives that we're going to talk about a little bit later, overall it has a very strong script, and we can notice the great writing in moments like for example the argument that Bill Ernest has with Leonardo DiCaprio's character, or for example its use of semiotics like with the owl personifying death. So yeah, the writing was one of the best aspects of the film. Oh, and I forgot to talk about the end, which honestly I think that this is the thing that surprised me the most about this movie, apart from maybe Lily Gladstone. But yeah, I don't think that anyone was expecting this movie to end this way. And although some might say, and I also in part think it, that this was a really convenient way to wrap it all up, it was also really original. And the fact that they showed Foley, which if you don't know, Foley is the way in which they create sounds for movies and other spectacles, I found that to be really interesting. And of course, I also really liked Martin Scorsese's cameo. But yes, even if this might be an easy way to wrap it all up, I really think that this was a very original ending, and I think that it's an ending that I'm not going to forget anytime soon. So yeah, the ending, although weird, was another very big positive of this film. Okay, so we talked about the positive, now we have to talk about the negative. Okay, so the first negative is a little bit of weird editing. Like for example, right after DiCaprio's character arrives to the city, there is one scene in which a man comes and is walking, and then suddenly they changed the perspective and he's not there. So that's a huge record problem. Also, there's a very weird scene that I don't know if it was intentional, which was when Robert De Niro was talking with Leonardo DiCaprio and then they suddenly broke the 180-degree rule and Robert De Niro was talking with the brother. And the thing is that when I saw that scene, I kind of gave it the benefit of the doubt because I thought, well, maybe they are going to show some duality between both brothers and this was a way to visually show that, but really that never happened. I mean, there's a difference between both brothers because Leonardo DiCaprio ends up going against Robert De Niro's character and all of the persons involved with him, but really, the brother isn't a big enough character to break that rule for, you know? So yes, that was a negative of the movie. Another slight negative was Leonardo DiCaprio's accent, which although I suppose was really close to how people talked in that era, for some reason it came off as more forced than the other people's accent. And again, maybe this was intentional because he wasn't from the same place, but really it was kind of distracting. Especially at first. And even when we are in the halfway point of the movie and we are introduced to new characters who also had a very strong accent, for some reason Leonardo DiCaprio's character came off as more forced. And I don't know, maybe it was because I knew the actor before and I know that that's not how he usually talks, but it was distracting for some reason. So again, that was a slight mini negative. Also, although I usually don't mind 3-hour movies, I felt the time a little bit with this one. I mean, because overall it wasn't boring, but there were some times in which I got bored and then the movie interested me again, and then I got bored and then the movie interested me again. That was especially with the beginning. After that, after the halfway point, I was invested in the film. But at the beginning it kind of lost me and then got me back, and then lost me and then got me back. So yeah, that's another negative of the movie. Another negative of the movie is that I really felt nothing when the mother of Lily's character died. Honestly, I felt nothing. Maybe it was even a little bit comical. And really, maybe it wasn't supposed to be an emotional scene, because to be fair, a lot of Lily's family ends up being killed. But at the moment, when I was watching the film and I didn't really know that a lot of other characters were going to die, I was surprised because I expected this to be a very emotional scene. And honestly, like I said before, I didn't really feel anything. I really found the iconography cool of the death, but when she was dying I felt nothing. But like I said, this is a mini negative. And finally, and this isn't really a negative per se, is that I really didn't like Leonardo DiCaprio's character. And I mean, I think that was supposed to be that way. That if you go blind into the movie, you go into it expecting to root for Leonardo DiCaprio's character. But really he was super evil, so when you realize that, you also realize that the protagonist is somewhat more Lily Gladstone's character. So yeah, and also one small observation. I realized that Leonardo has a favorite child because he talks about Cowboy a lot more than the others. And I wonder if that's a way to subtly show his racism, because in the first scene, we can see that 2 of his family members are comparing both kids' color and saying things in the vein of that they wish that both had the same white color because the boy looks better. And then the girl kind of implied her to be like a savage because they kind of implied that color to be associated with savages like the Indians. So yeah, that was a very difficult scene to watch due to the racism of it all. Well, so that was my review. If you liked it, please like, subscribe, and also, like always, if you prefer, you can watch my videos in Spanish in this channel in Table 10 Critica. And yes, thank you for staying till the end of the video. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and until next time.